morning. How y'all doing today? My name's Nick. I'm with the Tieta Permaculture vlog. Over here is my co-star Otto, who doesn't want to get into the picture today. He's been very feisty the past couple days on this vlog, but I bet I can get him over here at some point. Just trick him with a little bit of play. Got him. Hey bud, this is Otto. Otto, good boy. You wanna go play? Anyway, today I'm going to actually talk, I got actually a request from one of you guys, from Ron, to check out my coop design. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a little detailed description and overview of my coop design and why I chose this specific design, etc. And hopefully that'll help you make the decision to build your own coop or take my ideas and make them better, because by no means is my coop the perfect coop. I actually took inspiration from a lot of different people for this coop. So it's kind of a conglomeration of a bunch of ideas, so let's get started. How y'all doing? Talkative this morning, Mama? Oh. Mama's getting a little feisty. This is what she usually does in the morning. I come in, give her some food, and then she wants to tell us how she's feeling, and she also is going to lay an egg soon. So I'm going to try to get this little coop tour done before she wants to go up there and lay an egg, because she just will keep yammering like this until then. So I'm going to clear away these cobwebs, because we get a lot of spiders right along this little shade cloth I have here to protect them from the extra sun. And you're probably going to hear that mama talking this whole time, just as a warning for you. So Ron, this is at you again. You wanted to see a little bit about my coop, so here's the video for you. So this coop here, it's a very, very basic coop. It's made out of basically 2x4, 4x4, a little bit of chicken wire, a piece of 3/4 ply at the top there, and a couple small pieces of zinc paneling. That's it. I mean, super simple, super basic. And the reason I did that is because I wanted it to be buildable by pretty much anyone. I mean, this is a very basic coop, and it's really not that hard to build. So I'll just talk a little bit about kind of the steps to build it, the design, why I chose this design, and what I like about it so far. So let's get started with that. All right, so the main support for this coop system are just these 4x4 legs. I sunk these guys in about 2 to 3 feet, depending on how far I could actually go, which is a post hole digger. It wasn't too super deep, but generally if you're going to be sinking posts in like this to support a structure, you want to go about a third of the height above ground. You want below ground at the very least. Knowing that I'm in a hurricane-prone climate, I think I went a little bit heavier and a little bit more extreme on that, just because I wanted to make sure that this thing would be nice and grounded and nice and anchored in the event of a storm of some sort. So it's that simple. 4x4 posts. I dug 4 holes, which is a post hole digger. Right, and I actually didn't change the landscape at all, because I wanted that little bit of a slope here, because I wanted them to, when they're roosting at night, to drop their manure right here. And then I wanted to be able to add organic material and make them kick it down, because they're naturally going to scratch when they hang out under here, and they'll start kicking all this downhill, and that basically will bring it down here where it's a little bit easier to harvest, and then it'll end up down here into my little compost system. So the whole point is actually, part of the design actually was placing the actual coop. So the coop is placed at the very top of the property here, because I wanted to have that kick down nutrient system, so I can have their bedding up top and then move it down. I also place it fairly conveniently so that as we walk out our door, we can walk straight over to where the chickens are and be able to access the eggs really easily right on the outside here. So we'll get to that coop, that egg box design in a little bit. But the first step is basically these 4x4 posts. And once I got those up, I just made sure they were leveled, plumb, basically level up and down. And then we started with the framing, and this is just 2x4 framing. And this coop design, the base of this coop design is inspired by Justin Rose. Justin Rose, you can see I haven't cleaned it in a little while, and we'll get to the cleaning in 1 second. But this coop design is kind of based off of the base of Justin Rose's chickshaw. So what I really like about that design is that it has an open bottom, so it is semi-self-cleaning. Obviously, you see there's a little bit of an exception here. We'll get to that. But what's nice is with this specific system, when they roost at night, I added these 2x4 posts so they can have somewhere to actually roost on that's not the actual wire, the chicken wire, because this isn't so great for their feet to be on all the time. So the 2x2s here, which is basically a 2x4 that I split in half. I just ran a circ saw down the middle of it, and then just screwed those right on top. And those are really easily replaceable. They're just screwed down by, I think, 3 or 4 screws. Super easy to replace if I do want to replace them. They start to get really mucky or anything like that, but so far so good. All the manure will fall out there with very minimal cleaning from me, and anything that does remain in here, like this manure, it just starts to get caught up on a little piece of organic material or something, and all I have to do is reach in. I'll wear gloves or something like that, or grab a leaf, and I'll just reach in and pull that out. But I actually don't really mind this as well, as long as I don't let it build up too long. Just, you know, for their own comfort, I don't want it to build up too long. But this actually is another place for me to harvest this manure that I will be using in my compost piles. So very consciously I designed this system knowing that I want to be using all the manure that they produce for my compost system. So it's very, very specifically designed for that. Once we have that base, we have the 4x4 here, and then we have just 2x4 framing, and it literally just goes, this piece, the long piece, goes straight across, and I leveled it, and then I did the back piece straight across, leveled it. Underneath here, this 2x4, this is just spanning across them. So these 2x4 frames on the outside here, you can't see it on that side, but the 2x4 framing on the outside here is basically just keeping these posts plumb and kind of spread out the distance that I want them to spread out. The coop itself is 2 feet by 4 feet at its exterior dimensions. And that was planned because typically with chickens in a coop system, if they have a run, if they have an area outside where they can actually go and be, the general standard is you need about 1 square foot per bird in your coop. That's like a comfortable level, but that's like the general recommended. If you actually watch birds when they're in a coop like this, they all bunch together and they're all in one little corner. So you can usually get more birds than that, but that's just the general standard. You want at least 1 square foot per bird within your coop if you have an outdoor run space. If you don't have an outdoor run space and you only are letting them be in their coop, if it's say on the ground or something like that, then you want at least 3 square feet per bird in your coop there. And that's just going to give them enough space to move around and feel like they have some space. But since I have a coop that has a run here, I just needed to make I want a total of 8 birds maybe total. Realistically, it was probably going to be more like 6, so I just chose to make it an 8 square foot coop here. So that just means it's 4 feet by 2 feet. That's 8 square feet, just like that. The framing is it's all 2x4. You have the 2 long pieces here. They're at 4 feet, so that's an 8 foot 2x4 cut in half. And all of these pieces here, these are 1'9" actually, to make that 2 foot overall span there. So you can actually get 4 of these out of one piece of 2/4 by 8 foot, or 2x4 by 8 foot. So basically these 2 pieces are the front and the back here, that's 1 piece of 2x4. All these is 1 piece of 2x4. And then all my uprights, I made the slope of my roof is also mainly supported by these 2x4s here, and then the back there, and then on that side over here, and then right there, right in there. And those are also made of a 8 foot piece of 2x4. So my goal here is to use as minimal material as possible because I didn't have that much material. I didn't have the money to buy a bunch of material, but I could buy, I think I bought 5 sticks of 2x4, 5-ish sticks, and then I had 2 2x8s, or 2 4x4s that are 8 foot long. So those were the posts, and then I think I had 5 total 2x4s, and a couple little scrap pieces I just had laying around that helped me kind of finish up the thing. So you really don't need much to actually build a structure like this. It's super simple. So after I actually put the framing on, all this stuff here, the base framing, I then laid out my chicken wire. Now I use chicken wire because that's what I had. That's what I had available to me at the time. I had a big roll of it for free, and that's what I was using. I don't recommend chicken wire. I recommend hardware cloth that's 1 inch by 1 inch. That's going to give you the best predator protection. Anywhere you're going to have those predators that can actually kind of get up there and try to pull your chickens through. Raccoons or foxes can try and all that. I live in the tropical climate here, and my main predator here for the chickens are going to be hawks, red-tailed hawks. So I need to mainly worry about aerial predators here, and we don't really have any other predators. There are cats that may be interested in chickens if they really try, but at this point my rooster will take any cat that tries to come near him, and he will easily win that battle. So I'm not worried at all about cats in the system. Plus I have this fenced in area which also helps protect them. So after I added the chicken wire here, I basically just stapled that down. I didn't actually use poultry staples, I just used a staple gun to get these down because I didn't need this to be super structurally strong. I just put a lot of these little staples in. If you have poultry staples, then you can use that. You can see I did use poultry staples on the edges wherever there was going to be a potential input into the coop. If there was a potential predator here, I did make sure I had at least a couple of those holding these in. But if you're using the hardware cloth, that's even stronger than this. It won't flex as much, and you'll have a much better time. So yeah, 1 by 1 hardware cloth, and that tends to preclude most predators. I'm not going to say all because there's always predators that can get through pretty much anything, but the 1 by 1 hardware cloth or welded wire, I forget what they call it there, that's going to be your best bet against any predators if you do have those ground predators from getting into your coop. For me, because I know I don't have that many predators, and I know that chickens generally like to be up in trees roosting, I actually lifted my coop up, and I want it to be kind of up high. And I do that for a couple reasons. One, just because I want the chickens to have that nice little raised feeling as if they're perching into a little tree cove there. But two, because I wanted to be able to come and harvest eggs right from the side and not have to bend over at all. I mean, it sounds kind of lazy, right? But I'm designing it for myself. I want to make sure that I'm comfortable using it. So I wanted to be able to come right out to my egg box, right to the side of it, harvest my eggs, and then move on with my day. I didn't want it to like go in there, crouch down, grab something. So that was very much a conscious part of my design. But also just because I'm on this slope here, it's much easier for me to actually have this raised up. I have it raised up towards the top of the slope, and that pretty much puts it at this height for me. So I have full control of everything that's going on here. I can easily maneuver and check on this. One thing that I did notice after the fact is that I was actually keeping my my feed bucket right here at the beginning, right next to it, because I wanted everything in one little place. But I noticed that cats were very, especially my cat, love to jump up on there and then jump up onto the coop and then could definitely get in. So I had to adjust and move my barrel away just to make sure that cats weren't getting in there when I didn't want them to. Again, I'm not really worried about cats. They don't really stand a chance against my rooster, but I just want to, take the precautions so as not to cause anything that could be prevented. Okay, back to this. Once I had the actual base frame in, I've laid this down. I then put these 2x2s right on top, and this is just a 4-foot piece of 2x2. This is, or really it's a 4-foot piece of 2x4 cut in half. Super simple. Then I did the uprights. I made the corner sides of the uprights out of 2x4, and then the rest I made out of 2x2 just to save a little bit of wood, and I knew that would be just fine. The top here is, I basically capped that off there with a 2x2 again, and on this side as well, it's basically all the uprights. Let's close that door so you can maybe see a little bit better. All the uprights here. It's a 2x4 on the sides, and then a 2x2 up front. And then I just made a little bit of opening here. I put a piece across here and put a couple hinges on here to make this door. And this door is a really simple door with just a simple turn to close it. So we actually, when we first got them started, we would come out here and lock them up every night, and then we would come out in the morning and let them out every morning. And that's basically to protect against predator pressure. It's also to make them learn that this is their coop and this is where they should be staying at night. Once we got them established with that, once they knew the coop and I recognized that there weren't really any major predator pressures for me here, I actually don't close the door at night anymore. I just let it stay open. But if we wanted to close it for whatever reason, if we wanted to keep them in or if we wanted to isolate someone, we could easily do that by closing that door. And this is super simple. This little latch thing here is literally just a little piece of 3/4 ply screwed on, and then I pre-drilled through this piece here and then put a screw through there so it just pivots nice and easily. So it's actually attached to this piece back here and it's just going through this one from that pre-drilled hole. So super simple little latch there. I mean, that's like one of the most basic kind of things you could possibly do right there. I let this guy just stay open, and that's for a couple reasons. One, I want it to be open so they can access it. And two, it will prevent them from trying to sit up here and then fly out on top. If this was open all the way, they might consider that. I doubt it, but it just gives them a little bit more of a barrier that they won't challenge as much if that door is there. And that works so well. This door is actually a repurposed cabinet from the house. When we were doing the renovations in the house, there's a bunch of these old cabinet doors, and I just used that as the door. Pretty much everything except for the main framing of this coop here was all reused. It's all scrap wood or stuff that people are throwing away. So you can do this for really cheap. And I mean, if you have all this kind of stuff laying around, you could probably do it for free with a couple fasteners to be bought. Maybe some roofing if you don't have that laying around. So it's super, super simple, super easy. So, and then for the rest of this, for the actual chicken wire in the front, I'll talk about the roof in a second, but the chicken wire in the front here, that's because I want to have some breeze. I want them to be able to breathe a little bit and have some fresh air coming in and out. And so I actually have it open on the front here and then on the side, over on this side. And that's just a little breeze through, a little bit of airflow through. But because I'm in the tropics and I know that I get those major winds and I don't really want this to be lifted off. So what I did was actually leave a little bit of an air gap up here that I then, chicken wired in. I probably didn't need to do this. There's very little chance that something would come up here and then sneak in there, but better safe than sorry, right? So I actually used this chicken wire just to kind of create that actual enclosure still, but this is about an 1.5 to 2 inch opening. Well, it's 1.5 inches because it's the size of this right here. And so there's an opening there, and then there's an opening in the back. So this allows like any hot air that's kind of getting into the coop here to flow through and rise and move outward. So it kind of keeps the coop a little cooler, keeps a nice little airflow through here. And then in the case of those kind of hurricane events, I believe this is actually going to protect the roof from flying off, because instead of the wind getting caught in there and then lifting the roof off, it's going to be able to breeze through. So there might be kind of breezing in there, but I think the whole coop itself will stay. It won't be trying to be lifted off or lifted out of the ground from those hurricane winds. That's something I really I needed to plan for here, because we do have hurricanes that come through on a regular basis. So another point on my coop placement before I lose that thought is that I put this way in the far upper corner of my property, and the main winds come from right up there. And the main hurricane winds typically first come this way, and then on the back side it comes from somewhere over here. So on that back side it is going to be flowing in here, so I want that wind to be able to come in and through the back if it needed to. But more than likely, if there is a hurricane coming, I'll end up putting the chickens underneath my mom's house and just creating some sort of temporary enclosure, because that's under the house. It'll be really protected down there. All right, so for the roof itself, again, all this is very basic, guys. Anyone can do this. If you know anything about carpentry, if you use the saw and the screw gun and stuff like that before, you can do this. The top here, I just basically rested these 2x2s on top of my main framing, and there's 4 of them that go across. And then once those were attached in, I just screwed down this piece of 3/4 inch ply that I had from another project. This is a scrap piece. Sorry about that. This is a scrap piece right here from another project. So I just laid that on top, cut it. Actually, it does have an overhang of about, I think I just used the piece I had, so I didn't actually cut it. I had a piece that was very close to the size I wanted. But I did want an overhang at the front and the back to allow that any sort of rain falling to be caught here and not just fall right into the coop. So it has at least a little bit of a protection lip here. So I think it overhangs about 3 inches, 4 inches there, and the back as well. On the back here and on the side, I added just a plywood siding, just walls out of plywood, again with that little bit of a gap at the top there. But all that is just plywood, 3/4 ply, nice and strong, sturdy. And I did add these little brackets because I got these for free off of another job site I was working on. And just to give it a little bit of extra security, because that is just a 2x4 screwed down into those, or a 2x2 screwed down into those 4x4s there. So I did want to add a couple little brackets to just add a little bit of extra security because I know that this base structure, this thing down here, this is solid. It is into the ground. It is really screwed into the actual 2x2s. So this base structure is solid. But the upper structure right now is just being supported by those 2x2s going up, and of course the plywood back here. That's giving a lot of strength for this system. So I do rely on that plywood to give me some strength on that side. This side though, we don't have the plywood, it's just wide open. So I wanted to add a couple of these little brackets that I had just to add that little bit of extra strength there. And you can get those anywhere, L brackets. These are actually reused, I think, from like a closet system. I just had a bunch of these brackets of this shape. All right, we'll look into the egg box before we move on from here. So this is the egg box from the inside here. And there is a little bar here that can go across if we do want to keep them out of the egg box for whatever reason. At night, at first when we put them in here, they would roost in there and I didn't want them to. That just kind of keeps them from going into the egg boxes at night. At this point, they don't roost in there. I don't have a problem with that, so I just keep it open. But I do have that option if I do need it. And that's, again, just a super little closed door thing. It's a little tight right now because the water is swelling the wood, and then you can just close it off so it doesn't actually fall or it doesn't open. They can't open it themselves. For a while, what I was doing is actually closing this at night, and then in the morning, the mamas learned how to open it. So I would close it at night so they wouldn't go in there, and then when they wanted to go in to lay an egg, they would actually open it somehow. I don't know how they did it, but they learned and they really wanted to lay their egg, so they opened it before. If I got out here too late and they wanted to lay an egg before I got out here for the day. And let's see, that's pretty much the overall design. We'll look at the actual egg box in a second. Before I do that, I'll show you this little ladder. So this little ladder is literally just a bunch of 2x2. And I think this is like a scrap piece I had. These are spaced at every 8 inches, and thank you for showing it off, buddy. But it's basically, they're spaced a little far. They should probably be spaced a little closer together. It'll be a little easier for them to walk up and down. But they've learned over time, and as they got older, it became much easier for them to go up. When they were younger, I was like, I'm gonna have to replace all those. But again, I know that these pieces are gonna be destroyed probably from all the walking and just exposure to the elements, so I wasn't too concerned about that. But this just gives them a way to get up, and also a bunch of little perches if they do want to perch somewhere that's not up on the coop. And then this piece here is just, at first it was just another perch that they could get up on, and it also helped hold this in place and kind of attach it to the actual coop itself, other than right at the top there where it's screwed in. But this little piece just helped give me some stability to this little ladder. And then when I switched over to this watering system where I just have it in this 2-gallon bucket with these poultry nipples, that just keeps the water much cleaner for me. And then they just come in. She's actually using it right now. I wonder if she'll keep using it if I start filming her. Go ahead. So she just actually pecks at that thing, and then what happens is there's a small little O-ring at the end of this little nipple here. And so when you push it, it actually lets the water flow. And then when you let it go, it stops. So they're never actually in direct contact with the water with their beaks, so it keeps it cleaner for much longer. And my plan eventually is actually to catch rainwater off of the roof and then fill this, so I don't actually have to worry about the watering system so much. It'll just be all kind of self-contained here. All right, we gotta get going because Mama's definitely getting feisty about wanting to lay her eggs. So this piece here, my egg box, it's actually it was a shelving unit from the place when I renovated it here. So this piece is actually a shelving unit that I cut to the right height. You can see my line there on the side. That's where I cut it. And I literally just took it and I screwed it on using this little piece up here. It's just screwed in right here, and that's screwed in at the bottom there. Another piece of, I just think I added this piece just to give myself a nice little piece to hold on to. And that's all that's holding it. So instead of having a piece of plywood on this side, like over here, so over here it's just a plywood that I cut to fit, and it's just screwed in. This is plywood, and it has like this vinyl layer on it, which actually I like a lot for this because A, it's white, so it's going to be reflecting a lot of the light and keeping this a little cooler. But it also, I find, runs water off much better and protects the wood a little bit longer. So I actually got this for free. This is just a bunch of like scrap material from somebody. So I have no idea where you would buy it. I haven't seen it before, but that's what I use for both the side and the back here for my main, this is actually the main structural support that's actually keeping this whole coop from kind of being wonky at all, because this is really firming all that up with that nice square, really rigid piece of wood there. So that's a lot of my structural support right there. So once I have this little this old piece, and you can see this thing's getting really old, it's molding, I'm gonna have to replace it. But again, it's now, I think I built this last September, so that's maybe 8-9 months, maybe less than that. I don't, the time these days, it's really confusing. But I put this up in, end of September in 2019. It's now May. So it's lasted a long time, despite being in the elements and me not doing much to it. You can see this thing's peeling. It's at some point, I mean, I could break through this really easily. And a predator could also break through it really easily. But like I said, I don't have much predator pressure here, which is very fortunate. So I would replace this if I wanted to give them a little bit more security, but I don't have to worry about that so much. Then I just added this piece up here to give a little bit of structural support this way. Added a piece of 3/4 ply to be a little base structure, and then I added my hinges right on that. And then the hinge just goes to another piece of 3/4 ply, so we can just hinge that up and down. Again, this isn't a perfect watertight seal. I would love this to be overhanging a little bit more so it actually covers that whole hinge here. Whoa, couldn't think of the word hinge, that's crazy. I would like it to overhang a little bit more, but this does the job, and these are galvanized, so they should at least last a little longer here in our moist tropical climate. On top of the framing at the top there, I'd shown this earlier, but just so you get an idea, I have a 3/4 ply piece first, just to give me that nice strong structural stability, this whole coop here. And then on top of that, I added this galvanized steel or zinc paneling. I don't know which one it is. This was actually also just scrap. It was a scrap piece that was, I think, a little longer, like twice this length. And I just cut it right in half and then put it on top. Attached it with roofing nails. And I think I do this in most places, but here's something just to note is when you do roofing nails, there are these nails with these little gaskets in them that kind of help seal out any rainwater from getting into that hole. But try to put those at the peaks. It's not as fun and it's not as easy, but putting them at the peak of your actual kind of rolling galvanized, if you're using this style, it prevents it from any water that comes here. It's going to fall down into this lower part and then run off. And if you have your screw right down here, that's just asking for some of that. Wow, guys, look at this. Oh, I don't know if you saw that, but there's a huge flock of either parakeets or parrots. I don't know if I can zoom in on this thing. Oh. See them all up there? Wow. Those are all little parrots or parakeets. I'm not 100% sure. I've been seeing here what I believe is a Puerto Rican parrot, which is fairly endangered, but this is a pretty big group, so it leads me to believe it's probably more of a parakeet. I need to get my binoculars out to be sure. But they're very big green birds. They have a little bit of red right above their beak. I can see that from here. And they have white around their eyes. So that leads me to believe it's a Puerto Rican parrot. But there's gotta be about 20 of them up there between that tree and the trees nearby. They just came in. Nice distraction. I know that's not the greatest image quality, guys, I know, but just trying to give you an idea of what I get to see here on a regular basis. Maybe that's a little bit better, less zoomed in. Yeah, cool. All right, sorry for the distraction, back to this. I'm also a bird nerd, so very proudly a bird nerd. Back to the actual roofing thing. If you have these screws at the bottom of these little divots, then when your water comes down this way, it'll actually pool up on your screw here, and then slowly invite more water to get down in there. And so you want to avoid that. He's a big tough guy. Hey bud, you showing off? Doing his little push-ups for me. It's the fun part about living in the tropics. You keep getting distracted by all these different types of wildlife that are entering your property or near your property on a regular basis. The lizards and everything, I love them. When I lived here as a kid, and I used to catch them and then hang them from my ear, because they have this defense mechanism where when they bite, they won't let go until they sense the danger's over. So you just let them come up and they bite. They don't bite super hard, it doesn't hurt, and they just will hold there, and you can just walk around with them hanging from your ears until they realize, oh, I'm no longer in danger, and then they'll fall off and scurry away. All right, so I mean, that's generally the coop design. If you have, Ron, if you have any questions about that or any specific, if you want some specifics about this, I'm certainly happy to help answer more of those questions. Just leave it in a comment below. I think I got the general gist of everything though. I'm trying to look through it here. Oh, just one more note. So in terms of predator pressure, for me, again, I don't have any. If you're in a different climate, that's going to be a different story for you. But right where I am, I don't have much predator pressure. But that being said, I do have my entire pen fenced in up to 4 feet, which is going to prevent anything from really jumping over. I'm sure cats could jump on and climb this up, but again, cats are no match for my rooster here. He's a very tough guy, and he will take care of any kind of cat problems I have. But no matter where you are, having a pen, having an enclosure around that pen, that's just an extra added layer of security, right? Because that means they have to get into your enclosure first and then into your pen. So having that double layer, that's always going to help, and that's kind of what I'm doing here. I do have my coop right at the edge of my fence line, so like I said before, they can jump up. Cats or something could jump up on here and then on top of the roof and then come onto the shade cloth and jump down. But I don't have to worry about that too much because I don't have that predator pressure. But if you did have predator pressure, I probably wouldn't have had my fence line right up to my coop. I would probably have a little bit of a distance there so that they'd have to get through the fence first and then get to the coop. And if you do have predator pressure, that is one reason I do have that door there, is being able to shut them into the coop at night. It's going to prevent any, basically then the predators have to get into the coop and not just into your enclosure. So having a door that you can shut at night and open up if you do have predator pressure, that's a really good thing and something I'd recommend. Another thing you can do is actually get an automatic coop door closer. There's a lot of those online that I've seen in a bunch of different systems where actually once twilight hits or once evening hits, there's just a little piston and it'll just close your door for you and then hold it closed just with the piston strength. I don't think you actually need a little latch, but there might be even another one where you have an automatic latch that comes over to hold that closed. But again, if you can close them in and lock them up at night, you're going to be fairly safe from those predators, because assuming you have the right material on your coop. And again, if you use that 1 inch by 1 inch hardware cloth or welded wire or whatever you guys call it in your area, that'll be the best. Almost nothing get through there. The bit like snakes, I think that the biggest thing or the smallest thing that would really start to get any of your chickens, they're not going to be able to get through that 1 inch opening. So that's going to be your key. You don't want anything bigger than 1 inch by 1 inch opening in your coop to keep out any predators. The rooster is getting really annoyed at me for still being here and wants to chat a lot. So I guess that's probably means it's time for me to go. So yeah, Ron, if you have any questions about that specifically, or if any of you else out there have questions about my coop design, this is one of the coops I'm using, and this is the one that I use in my backyard that's really simple, really cheap to build. Don't need many materials to make it happen. At some point, I'm going to plan on trying to do up a little draft for you. I'm a carpenter and draftsman and all that kind of thing, so I can actually do a draft of this in SketchUp and make those plans available for you guys. if you guys would be interested in that, please let me know. Leave a comment below, or reach out to me in some way and let me know that you'd like that, because then it'll inspire me to actually take the time to do it, because it does take a little bit of time for me to, you know, sit down, do up all the drafting, make it presentable, and then put it into a form that's actually easy for you guys to use. So do let me know if you want me to do that. If you're looking for a coop design, I'll link up here to Justin Rhodes' chickshaw design. He has 2 of those different designs for free, so there'll probably be two different cards that'll pop up here. One's actually I think he has 3 now. There's the chickshaw, which is a mobile coop. Chickshaw Mini-Me, which is a smaller one. I actually have a very similar copy of that, inspired by mobile coop, inspired by that Chickshaw Mini-Me. I'll leave the link to that video up there too. It's gonna be lots of links up in this card, and I'll also leave all these links in the video description below. So if you click that little show more beneath the show notes here, then you'll see all those links, so you can follow them. But there's so many coop designs out there. A lot of them are like way overly complicated. Other ones are much easier. If you're looking for a static coop, something like this, if you only have a small backyard flock, it's going to be perfect. Super easy, not too expensive to build, easy to maintain, because it pretty much maintains itself by allowing that poop to fall down, all that manure to fall down. But obviously some of it does need a little bit of help. All right, guys, that's it for me today. Hope you all enjoyed this little tour of my chicken coop and the design, and why I chose these specific design features for this coop. Like I said before, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. And just want to give you guys one more. You gonna give him a little crow? There we go. Now y'all can start your day in style with a rooster crow. Yeah, please like and subscribe if you like what I'm doing. Leave comments, questions, all that below. Until next time, have a great day.